What's up everyone, Justin here. Alright, so I finished the Evora alarm install and I was just about to proceed with the stereo, but there's one other thing I wanted to take care of while I had the dash and everything all exposed, and that is a coolant gauge. So if you have an Evora, you probably already know this, but at least with the S1s, they don't come with a coolant gauge, at least not one that's readable. It's a dummy light, so it goes off when it passes the threshold of overheating. It's like 230 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever. But if you know cars, you know it's buffered. It's probably too late at that point. And so I wanted to get better tabs on it by putting in a gauge, an aftermarket gauge. So I'm just going to cover it in this video, keep it short, probably around 10 to 20 minutes. And I'll just go over the selection I did and how I'm going to be wiring it into the car so that I could use it for that purpose. Stand by. All right, so here we go. This is the ScanGauge by Linear Logic. And basically, I chose this one. I was originally going with a P3 gauge to put in the vent, just to kind of keep it like very integrated into the car. But I bought a Ford Fiesta vent gauge, which somebody on one of the forums said was compatible. It's definitely not, at least not with the S1s. So I said, you know, screw it. Let me just go with something that is maybe not integrated, but is reliable. And this is basically what came out of it. So in searching, people seem to like this one. What's cool about it is I was originally going to hardwire the gauge in. This one just plugs into the OBD port. And what I really want to do, though, is I want to wire it up so that it's non-blocking. So I do still want to integrate this somehow so that I could keep it running kind of like as a permanent install, but then also leave the OBD port available in case I wanted to connect to another diagnostic tool. I have a Launch X431. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the Lotus module, so I'm kind of just resorting to the generic OBD stuff anyway, but hopefully eventually I'll be able to get a Lotus reader and I'll be able to dig further into the modules. So anyway, little unboxing here. You got your instruction manual, obviously. There's the adapter, and it looks like that's a RJ45 connector here that connects to the gauge itself. So that's kind of cool. That's just going to plug right in. It's got a lot of pins in there, which I'm surprised at, but I guess it does protocol detection. So it'll be able to determine which one is best for your vehicle. Got some Velcro, put it in place, and then the gauge itself. All right, so it's about, I don't know, 3.5, 4 inches long, not too bad. And then, you know, again, it's got the Velcro, so I guess that'll be suitable. So I'm gonna mount this to the dash somewhere out of the way. And what's cool is you could do like fuel economy, and you could basically any gauge reading or data stream, I should say, that is able to get on the OBD port off the CAN bus, or I think K-line in the Lotus as well, you'll be able to display on this. But I'm primarily just going to use it for, like I said, the coolant, but then also, you know, clearing any codes that might pop up. It'll be nice to be able to read them directly without having to pull over and plug in another connector or another diagnostic tool. So yeah, anyway, it looks like, I don't know if these are both the same port. Maybe you could, depending on how you want to wire it up, if you want to have it in the back or at the side. Looks like that's the same thing. But anyway, we'll see how this goes. I'm going to test it out, obviously, before I get it fully integrated. And then I did do research on the Lotus wiring in the service notes. And they basically said that the CAN bus has just a few connections, right? It has ground, signal ground, which are probably going to be these two up top. I'm not too sure. Those are the two thickest ones, so that's probably correct. There's going to be a 12-volt constant power that's fused. I think that's, you know, 5 amps or something like that. So it'll have constantly 12 volts. And then obviously CAN bus, high-low, and your K-line bus. K-line is going to airbag SRS. I don't even know what this is going to get off of the K-line. If it has the CAN bus to communicate, I don't even know why we need K-line. But, you know, I'm willing to test it out with and without it to see if there's any difference in the behavior of the gauge. So we'll see. And then as far as integrating it into the car, I got this from another project. It's an OBD port. It's not pinned correctly for this, but I could swap some of these pins around. I'll depin and repin it. And I'm probably just going to leave this in parallel alongside of the existing CAN bus port. Also, there is constant 12 volt to the OBD port. I don't really like that. I think I'm just going to use a 12 volt key or accessory port so that this will only power up with the car. So we'll see how that works. Again, I'm going to have to benchmark or bench test all this stuff before I commit. And so we'll see. So I'll get to poking around with the electrical, see how I'm going to do this, and then update at that point. All right, just wanted to show you where I'm at. Basically, this is a pinout of the OBD port. You can see this chassis signal ground of 4 and 5. The K line is 7, and always on power is 16. And then the CAN bus high and low is 6 and 14 respectively. So that's basically what it is. I could chase all this stuff out and tap it into the harness itself, but I'm just going to make it a little bit easier on myself and take it right off of the actual existing OBD port. So I'll be doing that. And then this is the connection again. And what I had done is I took out the little retainers here and just depinned and repinned it according to the pins that are required. So this is it. You got 6 connections basically from Lotus, and this is going to interface to the ScanGauge, and I should be good. So I'm going to hardwire this in again, just using the existing connections off of the existing OBD port, and test it out, see how it works. Okay, here we are again in this mess of wires, and basically I just wanted to show where I had put the OBD2 port in. It's under here, under the passenger side. And the reason for that is because the connector that's from the factory is riveted in place. So I wasn't able to remove that so I could tap off of it. Just kind of gave up. I didn't want to undo all the wiring loom over here since it's already exposed on this side. So I just said, screw it. Let me just install it on this side. There's plenty of room to put the gauge any place I want. Plenty of length on this. So I don't even really know where it's going to wind up. But I got plenty of room to play with, and I figured I could just secure it under this bulkhead to keep for future purposes. So even if I don't wind up using it full time with this gauge like I anticipated, there's an extra OBD port. A couple things worth noting here. In the wiring diagram, they actually show like a little twist symbol on Lotus service notes, and that denotes that the OBD CAN high and low are twisted. So the red one is CAN high, the blue is CAN low. They twist the wires for something called riot geometry. I did take electrical engineering courses. I don't really remember the reasoning for that. I know they do that with speaker wires as well. Basically, it's supposed to stop the signal from propagating inside the wires or whatever. So it's a deterrent, since this is a communication signal that's going across this. They don't want it getting disrupted, and so they do that. I'm pointing that out because when I tapped into it, I wanted to be really careful, and I'm just going to have to monitor this to make sure that what I had done here isn't actually going to be disruptive to the CAN network. So I tapped in at this point. I tried to keep the riot geometry or the twisting the way that it was already. I ran the wires through a little grommet down here, so this is protected. I tapped in on the 12-volt key off of this yellow wire here, which is fed from my alarm system. It's also the yellow wire that's for accessory from the factory. So I already tapped into this. I figured, what's one more wire? So there's my 12-volt, not constant, that's switched. I did see in the documentation for the gauge that there's a sleep mode that activates, but you know what? If I just don't want to have this thing powered all the time, I'd prefer to just do that. And so that's why I opted for the key one instead of constantly 12-volt. Okay. And then, so there's CAN high and low I tapped off of. And then ground, there's two main grounding lugs. It is important that signal ground and regular grounds for the power for the OBD port are separate, but they go to the same reference. And so this is one of the main grounding points in the car. So I just reuse this for both signal and ground. And there you go. So wiring is done. I did not use the K line. I'm going to see how the gauge performs without K line. And then if I don't need it, I'm just going to depin it from here, you know, since I probably don't require it. It is used from the factory for ABS and SRS, like I said, so that's probably the only reason why they have it. But since this gauge isn't going to be scanning ABS and SRS, I'll just leave it like that. Maybe I could get wheel speed or something off of it from the ABS sensors. I don't know. But again, if I don't need it, I'm just going to leave it alone. And I'm going to plug this thing in, and hopefully nothing catches fire. I don't know if you could even see that. It says no codes. Gauge. This looks like it's all working. TPS 19. WT water temp. So you go. It's reading the coolant temp. It's backlit. This seems like it's a good option. So I'm going to mount this in its final resting place, someplace on the dash or whatever where I can see it when I have the interior back together. But that's it for now. Quick video. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. And as always, if you like this video, subscribe. There'll be more. Thanks.